Welcome to Realms Unknown, a sci-fi and fantasy podcast brought to you by the Bugle. The darkness was spreading, the void leeching the light from the adjacent quadrants. The foundational enchantments that kept the sewers flowing and the common ground firm beneath their feet were unraveling. It was the first principle of social order in the new republic, social resonance, civilizational harmony. The upper classes, by their refined natures and capacity to appreciate the better things in life, generated a surplus of ontological weight. Their reality was simply more real. The lower classes, though their coarse lives and mundane struggles kept everybody's feet above the platform, produced only a faint existential shimmer by their existence. Their dimness was not so much an injustice as it was a thermodynamic necessity. How else could the brightness of civilization be seen except by contrast with the darkness of the unexamined, unphilosophized life? Of course, sometimes those born on the lower levels would rise, great artists who came up with the capacity to see, to feel, to express that magical thing, that, what would you call it? The Realms Unknown! Yeah, that's right. You've just entered Realms Unknown, a weekly speculative fiction podcast brought to you by The Bugle, in which we discuss science fiction and fantasy tropes, the newest news, our favorite old shows, books, games, and more. I'm your host, published author, and comedian. My companion on this journey, the front of the train to my back of the train in Snowpiercer, the Elrond to my Samwise Gamgee, the Mr. Darcy to my Elizabeth in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. It's Kate Stamas. Welcome.
I get to be Mr. Darcy?
Only the Mr. Darcy in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I don't know how you feel about that.
I feel great because I don't know much about it, so I'll take it.
I'm so delighted to have you across all of the time zones as we are. Our subgenre deep dive for the day will be class, works of science fiction and fantasy that deal interestingly with class. But before we get into that, let's have a look at the news. The news story we're covering this week is that George R.R. Martin is in the news, not this time for The Winds of Winter remaining unfinished. Apparently, there's a premium collector's illustrated edition of the existing books of The Song of Ice and Fire that is being accused of containing AI art. The internet sleuths have gone hard on pointing out things in the pictures that look very AI, odd background details, telltale textures, anomalous anatomy. There's crucifixes on walls in a world where there are no crucifixes. That thing where everyone in the background of a picture has wide open, toothy faces that seem to be screaming. The artist commissioned to do the book has denied the use of AI. This is Jeffrey R. MacDonald. He's probably commissioned for this because he has R in his middle name, though obviously hasn't risen up the R middle name ranks high enough to get a second R like George R. Martin, truly the black belt of having Rsdom. But the publisher says they don't know of any AI being used. I don't know. We can never know. Can we ever know? It's possible that it's not AI. It's also possible he is the original artist who made artistic choices of having limbs melt into chairs and having people with 8 fingers. And this is what AI has been copying all this time. Are you aware of this story, Kate?
No, and I'm like deep in the world of like knowing about AI news, so I have not heard this yet. Is it like brand new information or?
It's been sort of swishing around the book kind of world for the last about a week. People have very strong opinions about whether it is or isn't AI art. I mean, when you see the evidence that the internet sleuths have put forward, it does look pretty damning.
Yeah, I bet you it's super frustrating too because I mean his like IP it probably makes so much money and it's like if people are suspecting that you're going to be not paying people to make art for something that I feel like, especially with the show, it's like the production of it all. I feel like it's expected that people work hard on it, and using AI is kind of like a cop out.
Yeah, it's such a premium product as well. The illustrated collector's editions, they put so much work into them, and then they charge this premium price. At least some of the pictures that I have seen have that thing, which is always a problem in period dramas. They have seen an iPhone face,
Yes, I've heard
um,
of this.
and the way that AI generates faces is predicated on all the most flattering, like edited pictures that have gone up from hundreds and thousands and millions of magazines and like flattering selfies. So they always look like they've seen an iPhone. Um, it's very difficult not to get, any kind of AI face that doesn't look like it's had lip filler. Um,
Oh, yeah, like an amalgamation of every face you've ever seen, like, from that time period, just smoothed over.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like it'll be really bad for the sales of this book if anyone is buying this book, they're enough of a nerd to care about specifics, I think.
Yeah, what's the point of buying the, collector's, like, more expensive edition if it the part that makes it more money or collectors is made by AI, frankly.
I could make my own special edition. Now, that brings us to our section. What have you been putting in your brain this week, Kate? What have you been absorbing, reading, playing, watching?
Oh, so playing, of course, I'm still on the Silk Song train. I mean, I'm someone who like when I have a new game, like I want to enjoy it. I'm not trying to speed run it. I'm finally at the final quest. All the NPCs are like, "You better go finish that final quest. It's the last thing you have to do." So yeah, I've been playing Silk Song and I've been just getting into a new audiobook, which is funny we're talking about AI, called Survival of the Richest. Um and it's about how like tech billionaires are building bunkers everywhere, a la Horizon Zero Dawn. And I just finished Algo Speak. I like listening to like nonfiction tech books.
That is that is pretty fun. I do often, I've said this about Elon Musk specifically before, but I do think a fair few of the kind of tech bro billionaire types, like we read the same books as teenagers. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
we have the same idea of like what looks cool and what like all of that, except I think that we read those books and took away different ideas about who the heroes were.
right? Like, how do you
Um,
not see yourself becoming the villain? I don't understand.
this week has been full of sequels for me, which is one of the reasons why I chose the sub genre deep dive of Class. I read Benedict Jacka's A Judgment of Powers, which is from the Inheritance of Magic series. It's just come out, which is quite a lot of fun. It's got a young man who is his mother is one of the big magic houses, but his father was a bouncer, and his mother left very early, so he grew up very working class in London and is now sort of negotiating his relationship with magic and with the big house, and it's quite a lot of fun. It's got a really good kind of grasp of the ways in which like specifically London class systems play out, and one of the few fantasy novels that I've read that constantly sort of returns to like, oh, I got to pay rent, um
Oh,
and figuring out how to make money while he's doing the quest is a lot of fun.
interesting. Yeah, because I feel like with the stories where someone is magical, it's like, well, that's all they need to do is just use their magic. They're not like a normal person really anymore.
Yes, they've entered the world of magic where money is irrelevant. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
very
I've really
interesting.
enjoyed it as a book. It's a lot of our main character thinking about what he should do and how to start to make the decision and what like philosophical framework he should use. So if that doesn't sound fun to you, that like is a lot of fun for me. But it's not as actiony as it could be. But to me, that's a lot of fun. And then another thing that I read this week was James Islington's Will of the Many sequel, Strength of the Few. So the Will of the Many is set in a kind of a futuristic ancient Rome scenario where there's like again a lot of class stuff, and they each sort of stratum of society gives away their will upwards. So they give away like up to half of their will, as in their strength of character and drive and enjoyment of life, upwards in a pyramid structure. So the kind of the power, gets exponentially concentrated, and the people at the very top have enormous, basically magic powers to channel all this will to, levitate stuff and move the world. And so you have like senators, and it's as I said, very Roman. Um, and then it kind of does a wizard college thing. So he starts as an orphan, but his family, he was a prince, but then he was an orphan, and then he kind of has to gets adopted by a senator in order to go to wizard school to solve a mystery. And there's like a lot of location changes, which I find a little bit frustrating because he's really building these incredible worlds, and I want to see what the world is like for an orphan in this society. And then he's working his way up, and so on and so forth, and then all of a sudden he's in the wizard school setting and he's trying to find his feet there, and we're trying to like navigate that thing. And when you've gone from like fighting for your life on the streets to a kind of a rarefied academic atmosphere, like the stakes are kind of all of a sudden very different. And then at the end of the first book, there's this thing basically, not to put too much of a spoiler, but it kind of steps up into almost into science fiction from fantasy sci-fi into like proper science fiction, multiple worlds, and kind of I feel like the second book carried on the thing that I was a little bit uncomfortable with in the first book, which was like all these interesting places. I would like us to stay in one of them for a while.
Yeah, like
Uh,
really get to know it. So it's more like you're bouncing around places and not like expansive type of thing.
yeah, and like to do him credit as a writer, I really like the Lacanius trilogy. He's so good at world building and quite good at character, and I kind of want more of that. So my frustration is just that it's not more of what I like about what he's doing, and I am very much enjoying it all. But that's my warning: is if you like cozy fantasy, this is probably not your bag because there's nothing cozy about it. Like,
Cozy fantasy.
uh, yeah, people are constantly saying, I'm going to murder you, which feels uh, moderately stressful.
Yeah.
And that brings us to your ad section. Your ad section now, because you can't be what you can't buy. Are you tired of upstart merchants confusing your ancient bloodline's noble strides with the watery performative tiptoeing of the nouveau riche? Try Lord Ponsonby's bejeweled heels for lordly prancing, the fanciest footwear that ever a family of 5 could have survived on the cost of for a year. They are made of suede, harvested only by put-upon single mothers during the full moon when they feel guiltiest about leaving their children. Lord Ponsonby's bejeweled heels for lordly prancing. Step into your pair today. Are you tired of uncertainty? Are you unsure when you should bow, when you should kneel, or when you should press your face to the dirt? Know Your Place pitchforks and scythes have brought you this episode of the podcast. Our tools are enchanted with the latest detection for deference spells. The haft will grow warm in the presence of a landowner and vibrate near true nobility, ensuring you always offer the proper level of submission. A must-have for any serf who knows what's good for them. Work harder, bow deeper. If you buy today, you'll get a bonus rebellion mod to pimp out your pitchfork for the revolution. The heat haft tells you which ones to fork first. And that brings us to Trope on a Rope. Each week, we look at a trope that we love or we hate, or we love to hate or we hate to love, but we certainly notice it every time it comes across our eyes. Kate, do you have a trope on a rope for us this week?
The trope that I love this trope. I love when pilots are cowboys or just like, all the pilots that are like in sci-fi, like they have this swagger that is always the same. And I love it. Like I think it's charming. I do it every single time. It'll never get old. Examples would be Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica. Love Battlestar Galactica. Joker from Mass Effect. The Expanse, Firefly, even Han Solo a bit, but like, I love it.
Yeah, a ruffianly pilot, which is odd that we're so into it as a trope, given that if you were on an actual aeroplane and your pilot was like, "Woohoo," you'd be quite upset about it all.
Yeah, the person with the most stressful job, it feels like, who can really the only person that can do that thing is like a silly goose. And also like a gunslinger and like talking crap when they shouldn't be. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that too. That's a great trope on a rope. Mine for this week was suggested by Jason from my writers group, who was talking about that thing where two people who are apparently strangers see each other and are like, "Oh, I'll never forgive you, why I," or they come right up into each other's faces, and everyone thinks there's a fight about to break up, and then they break into smiles and hug each other and like, "Ah, man, I haven't seen you for ages." Again, if that happened in real life, would be very upsetting. But I fall for it every time. I'm like,
Oh
what's
yeah.
this? What's this terrible backstory they have? Oh, they were friends all along. Do they do this every time they meet? Like, is this their thing? Like, is this their like secret handshake of just being absolute, like,
Those get me every time
terrifying
too.
dickbags to one another for 35 seconds?
Those get me every time too. I'm a huge sucker for like a fake out. Like I believe it.
Yeah, it feels like it's quite. Is it gendered? Question. If you had it being a man and a woman doing that, would it just be too, like, divorce trauma for the audience?
It
Yeah.
might be more alarming if that were happening. I guess there has to be some, like, level of, like, balance of, like, who they are as people, like, if it was, like again, if we're talking about sci-fi, if it was, like, who is that lady from The Expanse, who, like, was in, like, that mech unit because she,
Oh,
like, hurt
yeah, the
herself?
Mars one.
I can't remember her name. You know who I'm talking about? Yeah, if it was, like, her fighting with someone, it's like she's got this level of, like, uh air above people. I can't think of the words right now, but, like, there's some balance of, like, social structure of that.
Yeah. I find it so charming on screen, and yet in real life, if someone doesn't text me back, I assume that it's because they hate me or, like they've suddenly realized that all along I was awful. So I don't think I could stand, like, if it happened to me in real life, it would give me a nervous breakdown.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I'd cry.
yeah, if someone's like, you know what you've done, I'd be like, what have I done? Ah, I'm so sorry.
Make up scenarios in my head like, "Yeah, I guess I did do something awful."
And that brings us to our subgenre deep dive of this week. This week, we are going deep into class. Now, if you know, every week I put out on the Patreon and on the Blue Sky a call out for our subgenre deep dive of the week. So if this is up your alley, this subgenre, go into the comment section over on the Blue Sky or over at my Patreon. You can subscribe for no money. And there's always just a massive reading list of possible options. We're gonna go shallow here, but the deep dive is open to you. Class. From Brave New World with its eugenics and drug regime based embodiment of class to The Expanse with the solar system's geographic distribution to Ursula Le Guin's The Dispossessed, class is embedded in a lot of the best science fiction and fantasy. I'm going to mention a few of the ones that I think are quite interesting. Bong Joon Ho, obviously, as a director, always does class, Snowpiercer being a great example. A little bit on the nose that every carriage of the train as you get to, I mean, this is actually quite a common thing when you have fiction that represents class, to have it be literally you're over here and you're over here. Arcane, which was on Netflix, League of Legends, Arcane, that cartoon had like Richtown and Povoville, uh, when, in reality, there's often more of a close knit relationship of class upstairs and downstairs. Do you have any recommendations for things that you think deal interestingly with class, Kate?
Oh, yeah, like, when you first mentioned this subject, the first few things that came to mind, of course, like, I feel like the easy grab is The Expanse just because, like, I mean, the way that those different, like, groups of people just came alive, in the show and also in the books. The Belters with how, like, they can't go to Earth and how the other, different factions of people, like, treat them like, "You are the workers." And then same with when you finally meet the Martians, and it's like, "Oh, they're like the grunts, and they are all about war, and they, like, dream about Earth." And, just how they all treat each other differently was very interesting, but one that you didn't mention, uh, the second one that I thought of immediately was Horizon Zero Dawn, honestly, and the way that it deals with it as you're playing it, because you start out, of course, as Aloy, you play the whole time as Aloy, but you start out where she like was born and grew up, and then it slowly expands beyond that. Like you hear about the Karja, and then you finally meet them, and you have your own assumptions about them, and they have their own assumptions about you, and the way that they think you're from the Savage East, and even with the different types of tribes in Horizon Zero Dawn, with the way that they dress and interact with technology and the things that they believe around that, go all the way back to when they were in their own separate cradles and how they lost certain information and were like some were pushed out of their cradle early from Gaia and some weren't. Some have more information than others. And it's just like so fascinating. I'll pause there.
I mean, that is a really good recommendation. I'm going to refer people to our comment section, in which there's a really interesting recommendation of Philip Pullman's The Golden Compass series, dealing interestingly with class. Lyra is an adoptee into the academia world of Oxford, but she's sort of brought up by the servants. And then you have the academics, and then you have her father, who is a lord, and so having to kind of, and then going away with the traveling people. All of those things sort of dealing with class quite interestingly and the stealing of children and lower class children, all of that stuff. But in the discussion, it went into the fact that Michael Sheen's reading of the audiobook of Philip Pullman's The Golden Compass has Lyra having a working class accent, where Malcolm, who is actually a working class boy, has a sort of a medium middle class accent, slightly more posh. And so Lyra, even though she's been brought up in Oxford by sort of professors and stuff, so she could at least code switch, even if she sees herself more as like allied by the staff. You'd imagine she would be able to at least put on an Oxbridge accent, has the lower class accent, which is probably to do with the fact that she's sort of got slightly looser morals in the text. Like she's sort of more ruffianly. And so in audiobook language, in the language of audiobook voice choices, that's a sort of a more lower class accent. So I think that's pretty interesting. Maybe it's only interesting to me.
Well, no, I mean, like, I feel like as an American, like, I'm not used. Like, I know that there are like slight parts of like, especially like the English type of accent, where it's like I don't notice it because I didn't grow up around it, but like that's how you tell like who's from where and like what kind of family they're from. It's like wild to me, but it's like true.
I mean, yes, it is true. I certainly find when I do stand up in the UK, I'm perceived as a different kind of thing from when I do stand up in Australia, based kind of on the accent um, stuff. I think we can't really talk about class without talking about Gormenghast, which is a brilliant book. Um, in which it's all about class, a sort of gothic hysteria. Half the people who read it can't tell if they like it or not, but it does what it does really hard and opens up uh, things about class that I certainly enjoy very much. And then of course, like we got to go back to H.G. Wells as The Time Machine, where you have the Eloi and the Morlocks, and I feel like the more we let people put their children on phones, the more we're going to have.
Anything that deals with class in this way and then like makes you like reflect on how it is currently for you wherever you are in the world or like society at large, I feel like is doing it right. Like if it makes you reflect on current life, um, it's good.
Is it ever too close to the bone, though? Are you ever just like, oh, I can't handle this? This is I read science fiction and fantasy to escape from the world, and this is too close to the bone for me to actually enjoy it.
Yeah, like I really liked getting into cyberpunk like a few years ago, but like now with like AI, I feel like I'm like I need to put this on pause. I don't want to hear about like these future technological places where it's like technology takes over, but it's still like slummy and there's like all these different echelons and like the corporate side of it. It's just kind of like this is too much right now.
Yeah, I have a soft spot for cyberpunk, specifically for William Gibson, because his Neuromancer book was one of two books that were readable in my dad's bookshelves at his office. So when on the times after school where I'd like hang out in dad's office until he finished working, there were only two books that you could read, and one was William Gibson's Neuromancer because it had the first use of the word internet, I think,
Oh.
or or surfing the web. One of those ones. It was like some historical use of a term, and then the other one was a story about Saint Columbus, who was involved in the very first copyright case. So it was like a book of stories about the life of Saint Columbus, and so those were the only two books that weren't like dense legal text. Um, so like when I read William Gibson specifically, cyberpunk takes me back to like primary school.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like it's the same with like Parable of the Sower is another one where it's just kind of like um it's a bit too like I feel like this future could be very close and it's like it becomes like this I feel like it was always kind of scary and it's like sci-fi, but like now that we're in this part of the future, I feel like it's even more terrifying a bit reading it. And it could be too much at times, but
Yeah, yeah. I saw a bit of a discussion about Red Rising by Pierce Brown, which is he begins in as part of a mining community underground where they're like very heavily censored in what they can do, and he's married at 16, but like it's the love of his life and everything, and then the world sort of cracks open, and he realizes that they've been kept underground and kept ignorant for all these years, and then he sort of again kind of goes to wizard college and has to learn and fight among the senatorial elite. Very similar to the Islington book that I was talking about earlier, but apparently, well, it's distinct enough to be worth doing, but playing with a lot of the same tropes. But I saw a discussion where people were like, it's not about politics. It's not a political book. And you're like, it is called Red Rising. Like, what are
What
we?
is it like to sit there and consume media and be like, it's not political? Like everything can be and is, but
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And I get not wanting to have like every book be and the moral of the story, shoving didactic stuff down your throat, but to pretend that I mean specifically Red Rising, which is about basically a capitalist class versus a an oppressed underclass, is wild to me.
It's like, why does it have to be political? I don't know. I don't want it to be either, but it doesn't mean that it isn't. Like, but yeah.
And then crossing the line between reality and fiction, I'm going to do one more recommendation before we move on. The Revolutions podcast, which did Mike Duncan does a podcast called Revolutions. And then the most recent series of the Revolutions podcast was just the Mars Revolution. And so using the same sort of citation structure, the way that he talks about revolutions in the past, he starts talking about this fictional revolution, going into kind of great depth about kind of the academic theories about what happened and the class pressures that caused these things to happen, and how the revolution played out. And it's such a beautiful use of speculative fiction, just dropping it right into a factual history podcast, and it kind of raises questions about the ways we do history as well as the ways that we do kind of these discussions about science fiction. Uh, that's my recommendation. Any other recommendations?
Yeah, there's actually a TTRPG that just came to mind that I think at least plays with class a little bit well. Regency Cthulhu. I ran through a game this summer of that, and it's just funny that it the rules are based off of regular Call of Cthulhu, but there's this Regency wrapper around it, and one of the mechanics it introduces is like this social mechanic where if you as a player are interacting with NPCs and like you don't roll well whatever social thing you were doing, you can lower like your social standing with the people around you and eventually become like a social pariah for at least the night. I find that like it like really gets you like immersed and like, oh, I guess this is how we're playing this game if you're like not super familiar or used to like those type of class structures. It's really fun.
I really like that. I think that's fantastic. I'm going to wind up with a book I didn't finish this week, but I can sort of recommend if you have a different stomach from what I have, which is a book. It's from the Parasol Protectorate, and it's set in I think Edwardian England, in which they have werewolves and vampires, and it's all got to do with class and the way that you can become a werewolf, but that sort of enters you into a class system, and then you can fight for hierarchy, and therefore land ownership and those things, which is quite a fun premise. I hit a brick wall with it because I really cannot handle historical fiction set in England that is clearly written by an American. Um,
I
not that
understand.
Americans can't do it well, but when you're
I
sort
get
of
it.
in it and it's like, my lord, would you like a blueberry muffin? You're like, things that, or it's what a beautiful fall weather it is outside. And you're like, that's not invented yet, slash, it's such an American thing. I can't handle it. And it's terrible because there are people who really love those genres and are telling great characters and great stories in the thing. And I really love the premise of this story, but there's just these moments where and sometimes you can come over them and sometimes you cannot get over the hump. And with this one, it might have been the mood that I was in when I was reading it, but I hit a brick wall with it. But if it sounds like your cup of uh, sweetened tea, then please let me let me know if you've enjoyed it. But that brings us to the minds of which is where we talk about something that we loved at one point in our life, but now looking back on it maybe makes us feel a little bit Kate, have you got something to delve up from the deeps for us?
The only thing that I could like think of is just Harry Potter. Like I was so into it when I was younger. I worked at a bookstore when all of those books were coming out. I like waited to like buy it first at the bookstore that like I worked at. Read the final book that night, like did not sleep. I was into it. Um but yeah, it hasn't aged well. It's like even outside of JK Rowling and all of her shenanigans, to put it lightly, like it's just not a good book. There's a lot of weird like racial characters, like goblins, fat phobia, house elf slavery, like the politics are like pretty incoherent, the world building's weird, there's like extremely rigid like moral binaries like throughout it. All the cool female characters end up being like their ambitions like dissolve into like domesticity, like with Tonks is like the best example for me. And of course like Ginny is just like wallpaper. But yeah, like it's one of those things where it's like I was young, so like liking something that wasn't written well, I don't put it as a slight to myself, but like, can I recommend it today? No, it's not good. And supporting JK Rowling, like she's reprehensible. So like there's no point. And there's so much other, like we just talked about so many different like stories, books, movies, television shows, games. There's so much other content out there that if you want like wizard school content, like I mean, there's Children of Blood and Bone. Lord of the Wings isn't wizard school, but like if you want like the magic and the world building, like that is right there. And there's so much content for that. I heard Percy Jackson is a good replacement. Like, yeah.
Age to Age, Diana Wynne Jones' Crestomancy series, very good. But if you are an adult who's looking for wizard school stuff, I will always recommend Naomi Novik, the Golden Enclaves series. So, I mean, anything from Naomi Novik, I will almost immediately read. So good. The Golden Enclave series, it's a wizard school, but it's like really intense. And if you don't do well, you get eaten by the monsters. The premise being that monsters are like attracted to magical people and want to eat them. And if you don't go into this wizard school, which is sort of in a pocket dimension,
What?
they will eat you. But but 1 in 4 kids make it out of the wizard school. Everyone else gets eaten. But if you're outside the wizard school, like 1 in 20 kids make it through puberty. So until you're an adult and kind of have defenses against these monsters, the mouths as they're called, your only hope is to get into the wizard school and then also to get through the wizard school. And the kind of our protagonist is pretty sure that she's going to destroy the world. There's a prophecy that her grandmother gave when she was 4 that she would be the one who brought down the enclaves, which are the only places that are safe against the monsters of the world. And so you are in the POV of someone who's like struggling, but also quite possibly like might be a dark lord, finds that like dark magic comes to her incredibly easily, but like normal mundane magical tasks she's completely incompetent at. So like everything is pushing her towards being the bad guy. It's so fun. It's such a good book, a series, a trilogy. I think it ends in a slightly like it reminds you that it's YA because the ending is very, very neat. But if you want satisfying wizard school scenario, I highly recommend that. That's one that I'll keep coming back to recommending. And of course, the Wizardiverse quadrilogy, quadronomy, quartet.
I believe you. Any of those words sound great.
Also, all Tamora Pierce books, the Protector of the Small series and the Alana the Lioness series. But we'll do a school episode at
Yeah.
some later date. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode of Realms Unknown. Kate, can you tell us where people can find and support you online?
I mean, I've been doing a lot of content on Twitch lately. So Twitch at Kate Stam. I'm on Instagram, Kate Stamis. I'm everywhere, Kate Stam and Kate Stamis. I like streaming video games. Come hang out with me sometime. I stream on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays pretty regularly. So yeah.
And you were, of course, recommended to me when I did a call out for good guest hosts. And I think whoever the people who recommended you, they did well. You can find me online at patreon.com/Alice Fraser. It's the one-stop shop now for all of my stand-up specials, podcasts, blogs, my twice-weekly writers' meetings if you want to come and write with me. I'm doing my New Year's reboot between Christmas and my birthday, which is where we set up good creative habits for the year, and you can sign up for that over at patreon.com/Alice Fraser. This is also my book. You can get my book either in physical copy or in audiobook. It's called A Passion for Passion. This is a Bugle podcast and Alice Fraser production. Your editor is Laura Turner. Your executive producer is Chris Skinner. I'll talk to you again next week.